Hello, my dear friend. Have you ever stayed quiet? Not because you had nothing to say, but because you knew no one was really listening. Maybe it was during dinner, when you tried to share a memory and your words were brushed aside. Or maybe you were sitting in the living room, your adult children chatting around you, talking over you, not once stopping to ask how you were doing. And so you sat there, not sad, not angry, just invisible. If you've ever felt that, this video is for you. You see, something happens after 60. You've lived through storms. You've raised children, paid the bills, made sacrifices no one will ever fully understand. You've stood strong while everyone else leaned on you. And yet somehow, with each passing year, the respect you once commanded starts to fade. Not because you lost your wisdom, but because the world stopped noticing it. And here's the hardest part. The more you ask for that respect, the less of it you seem to receive. But today we're going to change that. Not by shouting, not by guilt, not by chasing anyone's approval. Because there's one secret, one quiet but powerful truth that changes everything. And once you understand it, you'll never feel invisible again. In this video, I'm going to reveal the #1 secret to earning lasting, heartfelt respect from the people around you, especially your grown children, without ever demanding it. We'll talk about how to carry yourself in a way that draws people in, not pushes them away. How to stop explaining yourself. How to stop begging for attention. And how to start living with a kind of quiet power that makes others lean in, listen, and most importantly, honor you for exactly who you are. Because you're not here to fade quietly. You're here to shine, with depth, with dignity, and with grace. So before we dive in, I want to ask you something. If you're ready to stop asking for respect and instead start becoming someone who naturally receives it, leave a comment right now that says, "I choose quiet power over loud approval." That small sentence could be the start of a whole new chapter in your life. And if you find value in this kind of message, if it speaks to something inside you, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone else who might need to hear these words today. Your support helps us reach more hearts, more stories, more lives just like yours. Now go ahead, make yourself a warm cup of coffee or tea, get comfortable. This isn't just a video, it's a conversation between us, a journey you and I will take together, and what we'll uncover by the end just might change the way you see everything. Let's go deeper, friend, because to truly earn respect without ever asking for it, we first need to understand what respect actually is and what it is not. You see, many people assume that with age comes automatic respect, that growing older somehow entitles you to be heard, seen, honored. And while in a perfect world that might be true, in this world, it isn't always the case. Because here's the quiet, uncomfortable truth. Respect isn't handed to you just because you've lived long enough. It's something others feel in your presence. It's not given because of your number of birthdays. It's given because of the energy you bring into a room. That's where so many people get it wrong, especially in later years. The more you try to chase respect, the more it runs from you. The more you demand to be noticed, the more invisible you become. You've probably seen this in your own life. Maybe you've raised your voice during family gatherings just to get a word in. Maybe you've reminded your children, directly or indirectly, of all the sacrifices you made, hoping it would spark gratitude or even just acknowledgement. And maybe after all that, nothing changed. And that's the heartbreak, isn't it? When love is remembered but respect is forgotten. But let me share something that may change the way you think about it. Respect is not something you grab. It's something you radiate, like heat from a fire, like light from the moon. Quiet, steady, and undeniable. Respect flows from alignment. When you are rooted in who you are, when your actions, your energy, your presence are all in harmony, people around you feel it. They may not be able to explain why, but they lean in. They slow down. They begin to treat you differently. Not because you asked, but because you stopped asking. So the next time you feel overlooked, I want you to remember this. Respect doesn't come from demanding more. It comes from becoming more centered, more whole, more of yourself. And in the next part of this journey, I'll show you exactly what that looks like. Not through theory, but through the quiet transformation of someone who lived it. A man who went from being invisible to unforgettable. Stay with me. His story might just mirror your own. Let's pause for a moment, not to rush forward, but to look inward. Because before we explore how to earn respect, we need to understand why it sometimes slips away in the first place. And the truth isn't always easy to face. You see, respect doesn't simply arrive with age like a package on your doorstep. It doesn't come wrapped in birthdays or the number of years you've given to others. No, real respect is something much deeper, much quieter, and far more powerful. It's not granted by time. It's evoked by presence. You can be 40 and deeply respected, or 80 and completely overlooked. And the difference lies in your energy, not your age. The mistake many seniors make is thinking that respect is something they can ask for. That if they just explain enough, remind their children of everything they've done, speak louder, repeat their points, eventually they'll be heard. But the truth is, the more you try to convince others to respect you, the more you teach them that you need their approval to feel whole. And that's when it starts to slip. That's when your voice becomes background noise. Not because it lacks truth, but because it carries the scent of desperation. Respect doesn't rise from effort. It rises from alignment. It doesn't bloom in loudness. It blooms in stillness. Think of a mountain. It doesn't shout to be seen. It doesn't chase the clouds. But it shapes the sky simply by being rooted where it stands. That's the energy respect responds to. Not force, not fear, but gravity. And you, my friend, were born with that gravity. You've just forgotten how to stand in it. So let me offer you this thought. What if you stopped trying to earn respect through words and started letting it flow from the way you live, the way you carry yourself, the way you walk into a room without needing anyone to notice? But they do anyway? What if instead of begging to be heard, you became the kind of presence that others quiet down to listen to? Respect is not something you grab. It's something you radiate. And if you're still with me, still listening, still breathing a little deeper as this truth settles in, then you're ready for what comes next. Because in the next part of this journey, I want to share with you the story of someone who made that shift. A quiet transformation that began not with confrontation, but with a single decision to stop living small. His name is Walter, and he might just show you what's possible when you stop chasing respect and start embodying it. Stay with me, his story could mirror your own. Let me tell you about a man named Walter. He was 73 when I first met him. Soft-spoken, kind-hearted, the kind of man who held doors open and remembered everyone's birthdays, even when they forgot his. He had raised 2 children alone after his wife passed, and for decades he put them before everything. His time, his needs, even his dreams. But as they grew older and busier, Walter became something he never expected to be, an afterthought. They still called him Dad, of course. They still sent him cards on Father's Day, sometimes even flowers. But when he spoke, they rushed him. When he visited, they left him in front of the TV while they talked in the kitchen. When he offered advice, they nodded politely and ignored it. And slowly, quietly, something inside Walter dimmed. Not from sadness, from invisibility. Until one day, something shifted. It didn't happen with a fight. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't guilt trip anyone. He simply stopped trying to be what everyone needed and started becoming who he needed. Walter took back his mornings, walks at sunrise, no phone in his pocket. He started volunteering at a local museum where his knowledge of history lit up the eyes of strangers. He joined a small men's circle where no one cared about his age, only the depth of his stories. And most importantly, he began saying no. No to last-minute favors that disrespected his time. No to calls that only came when someone needed something. No to being the man who lived at the edge of other people's lives. And something strange began to happen. His children started calling him more, not less. But now their tone had changed. They listened when he spoke. They asked about his day. They began treating his time like it mattered. And do you know why? Because for the first time in years, Walter didn't need their attention. He had become a man who carried his own light, a man who radiated presence, a man whose stillness said more than his words ever could. He never had to demand respect again, because he became someone who naturally received it. And maybe if you're still watching this video, it's because some part of you is ready for that shift too. Maybe you've spent too long explaining, defending, giving, and maybe, just maybe, it's time to become like Walter. Not louder, just truer. In the next part of this journey, I'll reveal exactly what made Walter's transformation possible. The real secret behind the respect he began to receive. A kind of strength you can't see, but everyone around you can feel. Stay with me. What you're about to learn next could change everything. So what was Walter's secret? What changed wasn't how much he gave. It wasn't how loud he spoke, and it definitely wasn't because he asked for more respect. What changed was his energy, the stillness inside him, the rooted, unshakable quiet that no longer needed to prove anything to anyone. Because the truth is, the deepest respect you'll ever receive won't come from your words. It will come from the energy you radiate when you no longer feel the need to prove your worth. That is the number one secret. And once you feel it, it changes everything. It's a kind of silent strength that doesn't demand a spotlight, yet somehow always draws attention. It's the power of sitting in a room and not needing to speak, because your presence alone shifts the energy. It's the authority that comes not from force, but from fullness, from having nothing to chase, nothing to defend, nothing to grasp. This kind of energy can only rise when you stop chasing arguments that go nowhere, when you stop shrinking yourself to make others comfortable, when you stop trying to be included in a world that only values noise and urgency. And that's when something magical happens. You become a quiet light, a soft flame that others gather around, not because you call them, but because they miss your warmth when it's gone. You become someone who doesn't beg for respect, because you embody it. You see, people don't always respect effort. They respect alignment. They respect someone who knows who they are and stands in that knowing, with peace in their eyes and grace in their silence. So ask yourself gently, without judgment, how much of your energy lately has been spent proving, explaining, convincing, and what would it feel like to let all of that go? You don't need to be louder. You need to be more grounded. You don't need to demand space. You need to fill your own space so completely that no one can ignore it. In the next part of this journey, I'll show you how to cultivate that inner energy in everyday life. 3 simple habits that silently reshape how the world responds to you. Because when you start radiating this kind of strength, even the people who once overlooked you will begin to turn toward your light. Stay with me. It only gets deeper from here. Now that you've discovered the quiet force that draws true respect, not noise, not explanation, but energy, it's time to ask, how do you cultivate that energy? How do you become the kind of person whose very presence invites reverence, not through demand, but through depth? The answer lies not in big, dramatic changes, but in small, sacred habits. Little rituals repeated daily that shape the energy you carry like water-shaped stone. And when practiced with intention, these habits can transform your presence in ways words never could. The first is solitude. Not loneliness, but chosen solitude. Make space each day to simply be with yourself. No phone, no distractions, no need to produce or please. Just you, your breath, and silence. Because in silence, your energy resets. In stillness, your presence begins to deepen. Think of it as spiritual gravity, each quiet moment pulling your energy inward, anchoring you. The more time you spend with yourself, the less you'll crave validation from others. And ironically, that's when others start to seek you. The second habit is even more subtle. Say less. Listen more. Power doesn't always speak first. In fact, the most respected people in any room are often the ones who speak the least. But when they do, every word lands. When you speak only when your words carry weight, people listen. Not out of fear, but out of reverence. Because you've trained them to understand that your silence isn't emptiness, it's intentional. And the third habit, reclaim your joy. Not the joy you share with others, but the joy that belongs only to you. Reconnect with the things that make your eyes light up when no one's watching. Maybe it's music. Maybe it's gardening. Maybe it's sketching by the window or dancing in your kitchen at 6 a.m. It doesn't have to impress anyone. It only needs to awaken you. Because the moment you stop living for someone else's timeline and start nourishing your soul, you radiate something rare, something untouchable. That kind of independence, that kind of wholeness, it's magnetic. So let me ask you, Are you willing to make space for yourself again? Are you ready to say less, feel more, and find beauty in the quiet corners of your life? If the answer is yes, you're already halfway there. In just a moment, we'll explore the deeper emotional landscape of what it means to age alone in a world that forgets to slow down. But first, take a breath. You've already begun to change, not by force, but by coming home to yourself. Let's keep going. There's more waiting for you just ahead. Let's take a moment to reflect, not just on strategy, but on soul. Because behind every habit, behind every silence and boundary, there lies something even more powerful. The emotional truth of what it feels like to grow older in a world that moves too fast to notice. For many American seniors over 60, especially those who've walked through life alone, there's a quiet longing that never quite gets spoken aloud. It's the longing to be seen, not just as a parent, not just as someone who used to be strong, but as someone who still is. There's a deep yearning to be respected, not out of obligation, but out of genuine recognition. And yet, alongside that longing is a fear of becoming a burden, a fear of being too much, a fear that by speaking up, by asking for time, for attention, for care, you'll somehow be crossing an invisible line. So what happens? You hold back. You smile when you're lonely. You say, "I'm fine," when your heart aches for connection. You become careful, and that carefulness slowly makes you invisible. But here's the paradox, especially in American culture. The people who are most respected in their later years are not the ones who tiptoe around others. They're the ones who stand tall in their independence. They are the ones who have a quiet fire inside them, a sense of identity that doesn't shrink with age, it sharpens. People in this culture admire those who continue to evolve, to explore, to speak less but with clarity, to live not for others, but beside them as equals. Respect in the American psyche is tied to autonomy, to boundaries, to presence. It's not about reminding people of the past. It's about showing them that you're still becoming, still discovering, still full of mystery, and yes, still radiant. So if you've ever caught yourself holding back, worried you're asking for too much, what if the opposite were true? What if, by dimming your light to make others comfortable, you're actually withholding the one thing they most need from you? Your full presence, your wisdom, your example of what it means to age with grace and fire? The next time you feel like staying quiet out of fear of being a bother, ask yourself, is this really humility? Or is it invisibility dressed up in polite silence? Because you were never meant to fade. You were meant to deepen, and that depth is where your power lives. In the next part of this journey, I'll invite you to take that power and bring it into action, not in a way that demands, but in a way that quietly reclaims. You've done so much for others. Now it's time to do something sacred. For you, stay with me. You'll want to hear what comes next. So now, my friend, we've walked this path together, quietly, gently, powerfully, from the longing to be respected to the rediscovery of what real respect actually is. Not something you chase, not something you demand, but something that rises from within you, like still water that reflects the sky. And maybe along the way, you realize something deeper, that you don't need to shout to be heard. You don't need to prove your value to be valued. You only need to return to the center of who you are, to that calm, steady place inside you where dignity lives and power breathes quietly. Because the truth is, you've always had that energy. You just forgot how to live from it. And now, it's time. Time to stop waiting for permission. Time to stop bending just to keep peace. Time to stop giving so much that you disappear. And instead, start taking up space with grace. So today, take action. Real action. Write down those small things you've been doing just to feel seen, and choose one you're ready to release. Then schedule one moment that belongs only to you, not for your kids, not for the past, but for your becoming. Because the world doesn't need you to be louder. It needs you to be clearer. And that clarity will earn more respect than words ever could. Now, I want to hear from you. If today's message touched something in your heart, if you're ready to live in a way that earns true respect from the inside out, then share these words in the comments. I'm choosing quiet power. Let it be your vow to yourself and a light for someone else who may need it too. And if you found even one insight that made you breathe deeper, feel stronger, or stand taller, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and if you feel called, support this journey through a super thanks. Your voice and presence help spread these messages of healing and self-worth to countless others who may be silently searching for them. In our next video, we'll explore the emotional wisdom of letting go, how to release resentment toward children who no longer call, and reclaim peace even when the phone stays silent. It's going to be raw, real, and filled with the same depth you felt here. But I'd love to know, what topics are on your heart? What would you love for us to explore together next? Drop your ideas in the comments and help shape this community with your voice. Because you are not a burden. You are not forgotten. You are not too late. You are worthy of love. You are worthy of respect. And most of all, you are worthy of a life that feels rich, full, and completely your own. Thank you for being here. And until we meet again, be kind to your heart. You deserve every joy this season of life still has to offer. See you soon.